You are now listening to the Current Affair Podcast with your host, Dr. D'Angelo Taylor.
So this is the Current Affair with Dr. D'Angelo Taylor. This is episode 4. My guest today is Mr. Myles Ward. Mr. Ward, let everybody know who you are. The listeners and the viewers know who you are, Brother Ward.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on the podcast, man. I appreciate it. Myles Ward. I'm from Chicago. Went to school at Purdue University. I'm a management consultant at a big firm in Chicago. And in addition to that, I run a lifestyle clothing brand called The New Rich, also known as TNR LLC for short. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I'm sure we'll get more into what the brand is and everything else.
So quick question. You say you're from Chicago. What side of Chicago are you from?
Yeah, from the southwest suburbs. So
Southwest. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you ain't got that south side, west side beef, right?
No,
okay.
I do live in the city now, though. So.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about. So just give the listeners a insight into your journey. So I know you talked about Purdue, and how did Purdue help set you up for where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. I think Purdue was, it really was instrumental in helping me, shape my life now. Like I would like to say my story is really unconventional. So when I went to Purdue, that was actually my second school.
Okay.
My first school, I went to a smaller school in Michigan, and I was trying to play sports. But when that didn't work out, I decided to go to a better school just for academics, and started to kind of uncover the additional passions that I have besides basketball, right? So, starting off there and then starting to, identify those other things, I came into fashion, and I also came into industrial engineering. So starting off with the industrial engineering, that was one thing that I thought, like, for my career-wise, it would be, really beneficial. It's a really broad, career path using that major that you can go into various different things. So I ended up in consulting, and with consulting, I provide advice and guidance to some of the largest companies in the world.
Wow.
As it relates to helping them address their spend, figure out how to navigate this COVID situation, all those different things. Like I'm doing that on one hand, and then also with the brand, being able to add that creativity to the structure of engineering was something that was crucial for me. So that's just a little bit about my journey.
Where you are. So now I know you talked about playing basketball. You're from Chicago. I don't know if you watched this 10-part documentary. So I'm gonna ask you a quick question here, and
Yeah.
I think you know the right answer, or the right answer to say. Who you got? MJ, Kobe, Michael Jordan. Who you taking?
Now I got to go with Jordan.
Okay.
Kobe's one of my favorite players growing up, but I got to go with Jordan. Just after Kobe said, you wouldn't have me if it wasn't for him.
Right.
I really can't argue that. So
right.
I just don't even try. So
I noticed you didn't say LeBron James. You that question
well,
right.
LeBron is my favorite player. I will get into a lot of arguments when people try to down talk LeBron just because of what's going on with MJ, but
right.
LeBron's equally as great. He's on Mount Rushmore for sure.
Oh, most definitely. So let's get back into the brand. How did you develop your brand? Take me through the steps. How do you decide that, okay, I want to do this clothing line. I want to develop the New Rich LLC. Where did this come from, and what steps did you take to get there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it really all started when I did this program called MLT. Through MLT,
Okay.
it provides you a lot of resources to kind of help you figure out what you want to do, and then it also gives you the tools to get there, right? So
Okay.
one of those tools, we went to a seminar at LinkedIn in California, and through that seminar, we were able to get a free year access to LinkedIn Learning. With LinkedIn Learning, what I was able to do was I took some time to just kind of browse on there, and I learned how to use Adobe Illustrator. I like I said, I always follow fashion, and I always follow my favorite designers on platforms like Instagram or just looking them up, and knew that was one of the main tools that people use to kind of design logos, graphics, all those different things. So once I learned how to, use that platform, I just kind of decided like, I know how to design, so why
Hmm.
not take this knowledge that I've acquired and put it towards something else. Um, so through that love of fashion, I decided, just let's go with creating a clothing brand. I feel like I have a unique story and a unique message that I can tell with it. So I decided to just go with it. And really, the story is kind of funny because it's not really as structured as most people would think. So
Okay.
um, I learned how to use that platform in, I want to say, May of 2017, and
Okay.
then throughout about 8 months later, I was just walking, past a print shop that I, walk past every day at Purdue, and just decided to stop in there. I had a ton of designs on my laptop. I didn't really even know how to like save them properly,
Right.
but the guys worked with me and was like, hey, you just got to save them as like a AI file or a photo, and then just send it to us, and we can get you your shirts printed. So from there, I ordered 30 shirts. This was before spring break time, so right when I got back from spring break, picked them up, and then launched them about a week later. And I sold out of those 30 shirts in about a week. Um, so it was super quick. And then from there, that just gave me the confidence to kind of continue with it and keep going. So, um, long story short, like that's really how the brand got started. And as far as building it, one of the main things I really have a formula. It's like I figure out what type of story I want to tell, um, and then from there, I just pay attention to what's going on around me and what's inspiring me today, and then I put a design, match that design with the story, and then release it to the world. And if people want to, if people relate to it, they're gonna gravitate towards it. But if not, it really doesn't matter because there's a lot of people that will. So
Right.
that's really the formula that I
So,
go.
as a consumer and someone who's bought one of your products,
Mhm.
I would say that I think I may have asked you this. I said, "What type of shirt is that?" And I think it was the Gildon 50/50 blend. And
Yeah.
so, how did you decide which type of blend you wanted to have with your shirts and with your what type of fabric you wanted to use? Because I'll be honest with you, that 50/50 blend is probably one of the best feels as anybody for anyone who's doing anything, whether you're outside, whether you're inside. It's just a great feel. So, how did you come up with that?
Yeah, I mean, people give Gildan a bad rap just because it's probably much cheaper than the other shirt
Right.
brands, like Bella Canvas or Next Level. But people will be surprised how many of their favorite brands use Gildan because
Right.
it's a high quality shirt, and they were pretty much one of the leaders in the t-shirt making business. So I don't really use that brand too much anymore. I have kind of moved up to some other competitors, but I definitely think it was a great starting point to use that type of shirt because it was a great quality as well as a great starting off price that I could kind of use to get that initial batch of shirts off.
And so I follow your brand a lot, and I usually try to follow a lot of people's brands. And one thing I've been doing on the podcast lately is that I've been highlighting brands. So actually, when this airs, episode 3, at the end of episode 3, they will hear me highlight your brand, and then I'll also put your stuff out there. But one thing that I followed was the Vice City type of design. When were you? Where were you? And when did you decide that would be good? Because I felt like that was a great design.
Yeah, so that was my greetings design. So
Okay.
that design really, I've always been inspired by vintage collections of items. So
Okay.
whether it's a vintage postcard, whether it's a vintage music, whether it's vintage fashion, like all those different things really inspired that type of design, and I really reincarnated my own version of a postcard. So really, that was inspired by the amount of people traveling throughout wearing my brand, and then posting pictures while wearing it and sending them to the brand page. Um, so that message, I really just followed what was going on with the brand.
Right.
Like, it was easy to kind of come up with that design, and then the rollout for that. I went to Cancun and I just posted a picture with
Right.
the joy like flowing by itself on the beach, and really got a great response from that. So, um, that design in particular is one of my favorites and definitely a fan favorite for sure.
And so, my next question is: you have a full time job, but you also manage your brand. So, what would you give the the up and coming entrepreneurs? What type of advice would you give them in managing both what they do in the 9 to 5 and what they do after 5?
Yeah, I think I have a few pieces of advice for that. That's just such a great question because I think about that every day. So the first piece I would say is try not to do everything alone. That's one thing that really kicked me while I was starting. I've been working full time a little bit over a year. So, I started to try to do everything alone. And I just recognized like this isn't sustainable. So I have to tap into people for designs, or if I have to tap into another company to help me print my shirts and ship them to my customers. That's what I have to do. So, that's really my first and probably main piece of advice. Like try not to do everything alone because you'll probably go crazy. Um, the second thing I think is also pretty important. It's around like studying your business,
Mm.
studying what works for yourself, and then also studying your industry. I think if you can't really go far in business, especially as an entrepreneur, if you don't know what's going on externally in the market, if you don't know what's going on within your business, so whether it's finances, whether it's just managing suppliers, whether it's just doing all those core things that people don't really want to do, you won't really go far. So I think studying and understanding how all those three things play together will make you as an entrepreneur, you know, equipped to withstand the time and make
Right.
your brand, last for the long term, not the short term.
And so social media is big, I assume, in any branding, any branding that you may try to do. So how does it play? Are you involved with the algorithm side of things? Are you looking at, I know you talked earlier about trends. So, how does social media play into your branding?
I mean, social media is huge for my brand. If I had to say like how many, the percentage of sales is probably 90% come from social media. Um, just given the nature that everyone's on their phone most of the day, people are scrolling their timelines, whether it's social, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, even people are on those platforms all day. So finding out how to really stand out amongst the crowd, because there's tons of clothing brands, there's tons of new brands that people are supporting. So figuring out how to position yourself as one of the leaders within that is crucial. So I'm always thinking about how I can, brand myself as well as the brand in a way that
Right.
stands out from the competition. So it's huge part of my business for sure.
So are you on all platforms, or are you on, just I guess I call them the big three: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram?
Yeah. The big three is where I'm at right now. I'm definitely looking into start creating a LinkedIn page. I think
Right.
people underestimate how big LinkedIn is and how you can become known as a thought leader
Mm.
within that platform. So I'm looking at developing a LinkedIn page once I drill down the strategy for that.
Okay.
Also, just before I get off that point,
Yeah.
you asked how important social is with the brand. I think it's crucial, but also you can't underestimate the power of um, touching people in person, right?
Right.
So, given the situation that we're in right now, COVID-19, like before that, I had two events that also that really helped me establish my brand,
Mhm.
um, you know, outside of the traditional online.
The
Uh,
pop-up shop.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
I did one at LinkedIn. Shout out to LinkedIn. Did one at LinkedIn in Chicago, which was super huge for me, just because it helped me get in front of a whole new audience.
Mm.
We did a pop up shop during the lunchtime, and then from there, that just getting that crowd as they go into lunch, it wa-
Right.
it was big. So I definitely think as important as social media is, you can't underestimate the power of word of mouth and also touching people, um, just in person. So
And so one of the things that you also did that I liked is that when I bought a shirt, and I don't know if you still do this, but you put this card in
Mm.
there in the packaging. And I want to say, is it peer review? Was that the
Carbon, yeah,
Harvenu, right?
yeah,
And so you had that in there with the explanation of what your brand, the thought behind your brand. How was that received in the beginning? And that's me asking as if you don't still do it. So how was that received?
for sure. That was something that I think really helped me establish a core base of people.
Right,
Who really, I think, when you're thinking about how to position yourself differently, I think you have to do things that most people wouldn't think about. So if it's throwing in a insert to kind of explain the low key parts of your brand that people might not know about, to talk about the message that you really want to convey with your collection or with a specific T-shirt. That's important. Like, people really underestimate that, and I think it's super important in terms of retaining customers, gaining new customers as they see like you really care about what you're putting out, and you're not just shipping them anything.
right,
Putting care into each detail that goes into that into that package. It's not just one of those, throw it on the UPS store, throw it in the UPS truck and let it ride. I definitely put some time and care into packaging and talking about what the brand really means. And
right,
just to step back a little bit, the
right,
parvenu is French for the new rich. So
right,
really, what the new rich is to kind of empower people to look at being rich in ways beyond money. So we think about what um, we always think about being rich in the context of the monetary meaning, but for me and what my community has defined it as is through the lens of fashion, through the lens of knowledge, through the lens of traveling, all those
right.
different things that make really that make you happy are what is going to make you rich at the end of the day, and not just money. And as you can see, with this COVID situation now, like that message is being displayed now more than ever. So yeah,
Right.
that's really what it is, and I just try to promote that and continue to deliver that message.
And so where do you see your brand in 5 years?
In 5 years, that's really a loaded question. I think that really my goal is to help as many people understand what that meaning of being rich in other ways beyond money is.
Right,
Um, 5 years, I don't see it as far fetched as expanding my team to really hone in on delivering that message to other people. Um, expanding my product catalog to maybe even a book, something that will really help people understand that mindset, and also um, I also want to be in a position to help other like brands. I think that people ask me for advice all the time of how to get started, how do I start my clothing brand, what T-shirts do I use,
hmm
um, who should I go to for this, who should I go to for that. So I think being able to kind of put structure around a service to help other brands get started and sustain. I think that will be on the roadmap for my 5 year plan for sure.
All right. So, do you have any virtual events coming up? Anything that you're going to do? You talked about the pop-up shops, and I know we probably can't do those as much physically. But do you have any virtual events? Any TED Talks, masterclass events? Because I feel like that's what you're giving you're giving the listeners right now. So, what do you have coming up virtually? If you have anything?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been putting together some ideas and structure around an IG live series. So
Okay.
one of my main components, as I mentioned, is telling a story for how people are rich in ways beyond money. So I started to do this a little bit last year with a blog, but it's just it just took a lot of time out of what I really was trying to focus on. But now I think it's a perfect time to kind of bring this back up. So basically, the idea is to talk to friends of the brand that I really feel like embody that message, um, whether they're big in a field that's not just talking about money. I there's a lot of people that wear my brand that travel a ton. There's a lot of people that are in sports that are caring about mental health, all those different things. So I think bringing those people together and tying them around one unified story is one thing that I'm working on. I'm trying to put out in a few weeks. And then I also have this idea that I've been playing around with like a interactive design challenge. So
okay.
still drilling down the details on that, but I think it'll definitely shake up the game as far as virtual events go.
So, as I always say with everyone that I interview, one, this has been a very enlightening interview. And the one thing I like to say is that longevity has its place, except for evening interviews, right? But I do want people to know how to get in contact with you, how to get in contact with your brand. So if you can just list them off, you can just go, and then I'll make sure I post this information in the caption.
Yeah, for sure. So really just to stay connected with me, my brand page, Instagram, at thenewrich.us. So at thenewrich.us. And then my website is thenewrichapparel.com. Twitter is thenewrich_US. And then just on a personal level, my Instagram is myward13. So best way to stay in contact with me.
Okay. And so, as always, at the end of my show, I want to shout out some brands. So we've shouted you out throughout this whole interview, and then before this, in the last episode. But what I have is a hat that says "The Power of Dreams," and this is actually from one of our fraternity brothers. Actually, his name is Brian Jackson. So he has this clothing company. Brian's information will be in the caption of this interview as well. But I like to be able to shout out entrepreneurs who are doing things the right way and who are really trying to make an impact in this world. Brother Ward, Mr. Myles Ward, entrepreneur extraordinaire, Purdue grad, I thank you so much for coming on the Current Affair podcast, because it though we're just getting started, it means a lot to me, and I really appreciate you being on episode 4.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely appreciate you having me on. It's an honor to come on, especially in the early stages when you're trying to get started. So for you to ask me to jump on, it was a no-brainer.
And so you all have just heard episode 4 of The Current Affair. Until next time, stay current.
Now that's the stuff leaders should be made of.
You have just listened to the Current Affair Podcast with Dr. D'Angelo Taylor. Episodes will be posted every Saturday at soundcloud.com/The Current Affair. Also on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, stay current.